Hi there and welcome to another episode of the Colton Boutique Show. My name's Daniel Patterson. With me today, you could say is someone who is disrupting the food industry for all the right reasons. Working exclusively in the past with the likes of Pret, Paul's, Gale's Bakery, Whole Foods, and now heading up his own empires, VNK and the Italian Revolution Limited, Gabriele Gori. Gabriele, thank you for joining me today. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're more than welcome, and thank you for joining us today. And could you please explain to our viewers and listeners a bit about yourself, how you started off within the food industry, and how you transitioned from the likes of Pret, Paul's, Whole Foods, etc., to now heading up VNK and the Italian Revolution?
Well, I came into this country as an unskilled worker in 2000. And started washing dishes for Admiral Catering for a catering agency. Originally, I actually came to this country to be a musician, but when I got here and started hanging around with musicians, realized they were all living in poverty, so I decided to get myself a job.
Okay.
And Pret was my to-go place because they were playing jazz in the shops, and I thought it was a good environment for me. And I was lucky enough to find a company that taught me a lot of the basics of what I know today and gave me the passion for what I'm doing today.
Yes.
So lots of the basic skills and the leadership skills that I've got today, they come from my training at Pret. And then throughout the years, I was lucky enough to work with companies, but mostly with mentors and managers that grew my skills and helped me grow in the industry. So I moved from Pret to Paul UK as a junior manager. Mm-hmm. I was with them for a few years and I ran a few shops in the centre of London, until I met the guys at Gale's when I was working in Hampstead, and I was offered a position as an area manager for them, and which was a very good change, very good company at the time. It was still very small, very independent.
Yes.
And I've been with them for a few years, opened a few new sites, and moved on to onto a couple of independent in Soho to land Whole Foods eventually in High Street Kensington as a food team leader, prepared food team leader, and worked with another small independent after Whole Foods, Bees of Bloomsbury, mm-hmm. and that led to the start of my self-employment in 2015. Where basically I started doing what I was doing already, so helping clients operationally from starting up to bettering the operation, until I met my partners a couple of years ago, and VNK Group Limited was formed in the UK. Wow. And eventually the opportunity in Camden Market came up about 18 months ago. And that's why the Italian Revolution was born in joint venture with Baladin Brewery. Okay. In Italy. Wow. And that's where we are now in Camden.
Wow. It's funny because I enjoy going to Pret still in Richmond. And you're right. One of the things, the customer service, great. The food, very fresh. The music, as you mentioned, very good music. When I used to live in West Kensington, actually, we always used to go to the Whole Foods there. Great wine selection, but also a beautiful layout. Because I believe it's an upstairs as well as a downstairs, right?
That was my venue actually. Yeah, the venue floor, as they call it,
yes.
Is like a restaurant floor.
It is great restaurant as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to call it porn foods. Sorry, food porn.
Yeah,
food porn at Whole Foods because of the display and all of the colours and everything.
No, it is beautiful, definitely, and that's what enticed you in there. You are paying a slight premium at Whole Foods, and rightly so, because you're getting fresh quality and fresh produce. But again, it was that layout that would just bring you in, and you'd think, okay, but again, you're getting high quality food there. But all right, you mentioned, of course, about one of your stores, which is based in Camden, the Italian Alley, which, by the way, absolutely superb. Great prices, great food. If you haven't been there, go there. I can vouch for it. I've taken my wife, I've taken my children. They absolutely love it. But obviously, for you, what is the criteria which needs to be met is, in order for the establishment to become a part of the network? Are you looking at things such as location? Is it also reputation, or is it market trends based on that area? Because obviously London does offer that. Stoke Newington, Camden, Islington. What is it for you?
Well, I mean, I guess it's a balance of all of the elements that you mentioned. Of course, especially when we help clients working on new concepts, obviously, concept and market trends is the first thing to think about. You want to do something that is needed in the local community, and then obviously after that you would know the demographic that would appeal to your sort of concept, and therefore location is very important. And reputation becomes very important after you open the doors and start doing your job. You got to do it right and make people happy. So that you get definitely people to talk about you positively. No, so it is. I think it's a balance of all of these elements, definitely.
No, definitely. And I think Camden is one of the best places to have. If you're going to have anything, Camden is the place, because it attracts so many people, and there's so many other events going on there, and it just lures people who always look for something innovative, new, creative, and I suppose something that tastes good at the end of the day. So no, definitely. And you've been on record speaking about staffing, within the hospitality industry, and obviously, as most people tend to use it as a springboard to get into other roles. Obviously, with Brexit and the more recent news that unskilled workers, which I think is an absolute joke, but it's the day and age we're in, will not be able to stay in the UK. What effect do you think this will have within the industry and for yourselves as a company? And do you think it will have a negative or positive effect on user experience? And the reason I ask that, as an example, when I go to an Italian restaurant, I like to be served by someone who is Italian. If I go to an Indian restaurant, someone who's Indian, Chinese, you get the picture. So,
well, you're opening a can of worms there. It is. It was a very tough news. We all very worried in the industry, of course. Because as I came into this country at 19 years old as a unskilled worker, and I'm obviously an immigrant as well, and I started working as a kitchen porter, and my passion and my effort got me to create employment opportunities and tax revenues today. Absolutely. With my companies. So obviously that when I read the news, I was hurt personally, as well as very worried towards my companies and what's going to happen with recruitment and finding the right skills and the right people from after December 2020. I don't know. I hope it's still some what Priti Patel said the other day is something that would evolve into something more manageable before the end of the year. Obviously, the hospitality industry is not the only industry that will suffer from this.
No, it's not.
My wife is a doctor, works in a hospital.
Oh wow!
And the amount of unskilled workers that are over there. I'm not talking about the doctors, of course, but nurse assistants and cleaners and all of these people. Yeah. They're a vital part, of the industry. And similarly, in what I do, it's a £26,000 is obviously not a kitchen porter salary.
No, it's not.
In the industry, but the kitchen porters are the most important people, in a restaurant.
Yeah.
So it's really bad news. I hope it's gonna, better itself before the end of the year, but it looks pretty tragic.
Oh, you're right. I hope so as well, because it's funny you mentioned, of course, with your story too, because my mother as well. She's an immigrant, and when she came to this country, I think it was about 40 years ago, something like that. It was on a student's visa, which I believe was only about maximum time of 6 weeks. I could be wrong there. It could have been 6 months. But again, she was only able to stay here because her uncle, who was in America, was able to support her. But in between that, she was doing the jobs that most skilled or unskilled people wouldn't want to do, which was waking up at 4 a.m., working in a hotel, hoovering, cleaning the beds, then come 1 p.m., going down to Leicester Square, working at the Burger King there until 12 a.m. And then again, and it's true, a lot of these so-called unskilled workers, and I think it's very unfair to call them that, add a lot of value to this country. And it is all about that authenticity, full stop. So I know I appreciate that anyway, but like I said, it is a can of worms, so I think it's best to move on from there. But
fair enough.
All right, now with online sales having a huge effect on the high street, do you think that this has created more opportunity within the food and beverage sector? Because I know from experience that we're seeing a huge upturn, as an example, in coffee shops and restaurants here in Richmond, with the emphasis on quality.
Well, I mean, online sales is definitely changing the industry, or changing the high street. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing or a bad change. It's just a change. Petrol station used to have horses to exchange horses. Back when we didn't have petrol, now they got petrol. Eventually, they're gonna have electricity, I guess, and charging stations. Similarly, for the retail and hospitality industry, it's just a change. Mm-hmm. I think what's happening with the high street is more about skimming, essentially at the moment, and getting the operators that can manage this change and get on board with it, to keep operating well and flourish, whereas other operators, and we see from lots of retail stores at the moment suffering, big chains suffering.
Oh, massively.
Similarly for restaurants, the likes of Deliveroo, Just Eat, all of these delivery companies are offering, a very useful service for restaurants. People tend to get out less. Mm-hmm. That doesn't necessarily mean that the restaurant industry on the high street is going to die because of it. It just needs to evolve and change. That's an opportunity.
Yeah, adaptation is definitely the key, isn't it? So, all right, and I was reading on Forbes magazine a few months back. They were talking about the upcoming food trends for 2020, and many people thought vegetarian, vegan was just a fad. People grow old of that, but that's going to be, again, you've seen it yourself, and you've probably been a big part of, the shift as well. Because I believe Pret, they've got also like a vegetarian outlets, haven't they, across the UK. Obviously, there's talks about regenerative agriculture, West African cuisine, non-alcoholic happy hour becoming more mainstream. For yourself, do you see any other upcoming trends happening in the future, or?
Well, definitely, the customers today, especially young customers today, they pay a lot of attention to the environment and to the health side of things. So definitely, veganism is here to stay. I don't think it's just a trend that will go anytime soon. I agree. In terms of predicting what's going to happen next, I can't tell you today. What I hope it would happen next is to hopefully go more, from extreme veganism that we're seeing at the moment to, closer to my grandmother's diet, where, you would, you wouldn't eat meat every day. You would eat meat once or twice a week, fish once a week, and then it'd be vegetables and pretty much vegan food. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of cheese if you're lucky, throughout the week. Because, back then, having meat on the table every day was an expensive business. And unfortunately, what's happened, after that is that, people like my parents, for instance, if they haven't got meat on the table, it's kind of, saying something about the status.
That's very true.
That's why you have to meet. You end up eating meat twice a day because otherwise you're poor.
You're a peasant, exactly.
So hopefully we'll see a shift more towards, flexitarian or how you want to call it, or my grandmother's diet.
Yeah.
But definitely, an eye to the environment and to the sustainability of things in general.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're going.
It's interesting what you mentioned though about the status as well, because if I'm led to believe this really, as an example, truffles, which has exploded, especially in this country, more so, has become a very expensive business. White truffles, black truffles, shaving this, shaving that. Used to be regarded as, am I right in saying, as peasant food? Was people, not really wealthy people, would be seen as eating it as often as what they are now?
Well, I mean, it is something you that grows, and you go and find and you pick from the earth.
Yeah.
From where I'm from in Italy, I've come from Tuscany. It's not really a truffle sort of area.
No.
So I didn't grow up eating much truffle. Porcini, yes. Other types of mushrooms, definitely. Wild asparagus, and this is all stuff that I used to go on a Sunday, to the woods with my parents and pick rather than go to the supermarket. Obviously, we don't have truffles in my area, but definitely, more in the north. Alba is very famous for it, but Piemonte in general, areas in the north, truffle has always been a lot more common than than in Tuscany.
Yes.
It's definitely become, luxury food since, a few years.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, it has exploded for sure.
And especially in this country as well.
Yeah,
You're right.
No.
It seems to be I've seen the change, and it's quite recent. It's only a few years, but it's true. Now you tend to see truffle.
Everything, isn't it?
A little bit
olive
everywhere.
oil, mayonnaise, pesto, crisp flavors. It's just it's exploded. I love it myself personally, but I wouldn't. I do, I enjoy it, but I wouldn't spend as much as what they quote you in a restaurant just for a few shavings on your pasta. I think that's a bit too much for me. But anyway, very nice nonetheless. But all right. So when you're at home, you're unwinding. You've had a long day, a long week, long month, long year. Do you have like a go-to, almost like comfort dish you like to cook for yourself? And do you have like a particular wine that you like to enjoy with that dish? Just so you could just chill out and say, it's a little bit of time for me now.
I do love cooking. Not that I get enough time for it, to be honest. But if I had to go for comfort food at home, it would definitely be a stew, potentially meatballs. My mum's recipe, of course.
You're going to share that with me at the end of the show, yeah?
Of course. Maybe. I might have to kill you afterwards.
Thank you.
Meatballs, definitely. I love a good plate of tripe. Again,
nice.
Like my grandma used to make it with a little bit of mincemeat and tomato sauce. But stews, sort of winter food is my sort of comfort food. And if I do like a glass of wine, obviously with with my food, one or two glasses of wine, depends on the day. Do I have a particular kind of wine that I love or I always go for? I would say probably no. I mean, I'm really close to like Morellino di Scansano.
Okay.
But only because it's a wine that I sort of grew up with, sort of thing, or any sort of Sangiovese, your
beautiful.
Chiantis, that's again because it's wine that I grew up with.
And a great wine as well, very good wine.
I mean, at the moment I'm drinking quite a lot of Nero d'Avola from a producer called Cento Passi.
Okay.
They're basically they work on lands confiscated to the mafia in Italy, and they turn them into vineyards. Sorry.
Yeah.
And vineyards. Sorry. And produce different, lots of different grapes, lots of different wines.
Sure.
But it really depends on the occasion and on the day, on the weather.
Yeah,
that's
a
different factors.
Big factor for sure. All right, and on something more personal. Obviously, I know before the show we were speaking about a couple of your passions. One of those being motorbikes. But rather than find out what is your dream bike, so to speak, I'd rather ask, what's your ideal road trip? What would that be? Where would that be? And what bike would you be on?
Ooh, that's a good question. Again, it will probably depend on the weather.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I've got an old Vespa, and I love going around on the old Vespa. And I've ridden everywhere with that Vespa. I've been to the north of France. I've been to Liverpool and most of England actually on that little scooter. And it's lovely. It's painful if you ride for 12 hours on a PX, but it's quite rewarding. I bought a cruising bike and an old BMW, an R80 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, lovely.
And I learned that I can go much further and much faster on a vehicle like that. It's much more comfortable. So what I probably my favorite trip, or the one I do the most at the moment, is just riding down to the coast.
Okay.
Whether it's Hastings or Brighton or going down to Devon.
Oh, lovely.
In the southwest.
Yeah.
I just love getting on the bike, riding to the seaside, looking at the sea for a while.
Taking it all in.
Get back and ride home.
That's it.
Yeah.
No, lovely. So, Gabriele, obviously you're a very busy man. You're going to make your schedule even busier now because I hear that you're going to be opening a new restaurant in Camden, opposite the Italian Alley.
Correct. It's going to be in the north yard of Camden.
Okay,
We're going to be next door to Amy Winehouse statue.
Oh, wow.
So we're moving some of the concepts of the Italian Alley into a restaurant with 4 walls and a roof. The restaurant is going to be called Balladen Camden, who's our beer partners, our brewery partners, Balladen. And it's going to be an Italian restaurant serving great Italian food, pasta, pizza, obviously truffle, and
I'm there.
and obviously some great beers.
Yes.
We opening. We're still on building site, but we set to open on the 2nd of March.
Okay, very soon.
Very soon. We're almost ready to go.
Okay, so I will take it the first meal I'll be getting for free.
Of course.
And all the truffle that I want, and all the pizza.
As much truffle as you like.
Perfect, I'm there. Brilliant.
Fantastic.
Okay. And lastly, music-wise, you seem like a man who's quite eclectic, has a different set of genres he likes. What are your go-to genres, and are there any instruments you enjoy playing, or...?
What to-go genre? It depends on what I'm doing, and it depends on it kind of goes in trends, and they do come back. When we were talking before this about the amount of metal I'm listening to at the moment.
Okay.
Is a metal phase. This one, listening to a lot of stoner rock,
yes.
From Caius, the Melvins. Clutch, Weed Eater, and so on. But I've grown up playing music. I started playing piano when I was about 10.
Oh, lovely.
Then I got into sort of high school, and piano is not that cool anymore. So
unfortunately not.
No. I took up electric bass first, and then double bass, because you always need a bass in a band.
Always.
And I played anything from jazz to, again, metal or rock.
Okay.
But it depends. Now it's a metal phase. I just came out of a sort of Afrobeat sort of phase.
Afrobeat, yeah.
So it depends, and it also depends on the task. I love cleaning my flat to some fast industrial or some hairspray metal. It depends.
No, definitely. It's true. Even like if I'm working out, as an example, if it's going to be an intense workout, it will need to be something that has some sort of level of speed or aggression to it. So definitely more on the rockier edge. But if I'm with the kids at home on a weekend, just unwind and relax, and got some generic music on in the background, it may be some jazz, or may just be some easy listening pop music, just because it creates that atmosphere, doesn't it? But again, it depends on what you're looking for at the time. But all right. And any concerts that you've been to that really stand out for you, like whether that's been in Europe or outside of Europe or within the UK?
I guess many concerts that it depends. I love going to gigs.
Yeah.
I go as much as possible. one of my favorite bands to go and see, and thankfully they come to the UK quite a lot, is Tower of Power.
Okay.
It's a funk band that's been going on since 1968.
Right.
So I always love going to see them. You know, it's a big show. There's a lot of them on stage.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. But again, anything, you know, from a small Avishai Cohen gig at Ronnie Scott's to you know, to Tower of Power at the Forum, or you know, a metal band in a bigger venue.
Have you ever been to the Download Festival by any chance, or?
I've never been to the Download Festival.
Okay.
No.
Okay, that's definitely one. If you're into, because you're into quite a spread of different bands and whatnot, you would definitely appreciate the Download Festival.
I was close to go a couple of years ago, and then some work commitments happened, and I couldn't go. But yeah, no, they usually have a pretty good lineup.
And it's near to Donington Castle as well, which I think where they've got the motorcycle racetrack as well. So you can always combine both your passions there. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend listening to that music while driving a motorbike, but yeah. All right, fine. Well, Gabriele, thank you very much for today. It's been very insightful.
Thank you.
I feel I've learned a lot, and hopefully our viewers and listeners will have too. So thank you for your time once again. And yes, thank you once again for tuning in. And until next time.